Spring is starting to arrive here in the UK, so it seems like an ideal time to have a little flip through of the Spring Stories book from Maremi Small Art. And once I've had a flip through of that, I'm going to be creating a spread in my Ledger art journal. Hi everyone, Jane here. Thank you for joining me on this video today and welcome to one and all. I have recently just got the Spring Stories collage book from Maremi Small Art, and it's the latest book that's been released as of today, which is March 2025. And I thought I'd do a flip through because the weather has just started to turn really nice here in the UK, and it really feels like spring has sprung. If you do not want to see the flip through for a variety of reasons, maybe you're not interested in seeing the flip through, or you want it to be a surprise if you're intending to order the book, what I will do is I will put on this video somewhere now the time at which I finish the flip through and I move into the project, so you can just fast forward through to that, and I will put that on the screen, and I will also put that in the description box below with all the other information, such as where the products that I've used and things like that. So with that in mind, I'm about to start, so if you want to fast forward, now is the moment. Okay, so this is Spring Stories and Backgrounds, and as always it's got that beautiful finish to it. I think it's because it's just so matte. It's got like a velvety feeling, and we've got this beautiful little girl on the front. Now I have seen some bumblebees recently, which is always a sign that spring is on its way, or maybe even here, and I'm loving that the colours seem to be very much in this sort of pastel sort of vibe. Now I've got the autumn stories and the winter stories, so I had to get the spring stories, you know, because I've got to carry on that whole collection, I do believe, of the season. So as always, we start off, there's a little bit from Marta at the top there, and then she even gives you something right in the front. So this would be beautiful, just cut out. If you do big 8x8 cards, that would be beautiful, and then you could put something here. That would be a beautiful start to anything. And then we've got all the books that have been released and a QR code to, I presume it takes you to the books on maybe Amazon, I'm not sure, but I don't tend to worry about things like that, so I wouldn't be clicking, but you can certainly do that. So we're starting off with these beautiful girls, quite sort of subtle tones. I'm loving all the bees. The bees will be everywhere for me, and the beehives. I love bees. I love honeybees, I love bumblebees, I love all sorts of bees. They are fantastic. And to give you even more, this time Marta's put the copyright bit on the back there, so you don't have to waste a page even with that. And I have noticed, I did have a little quick flip through, I have to admit, that the back of each page they're not all the same in this book, so they're a little bit different. So we're starting off with our doors and windows. I won't take ages over every page because you can see the beautiful pages. Lovely tulips. So we've got pinks, we got blues, we got pinks, did I say pinks? Yellows, a little bit of lilac, and again all the different sizes as we have come to know with Marta's book. So you can take this from the smallest sort of ATC up to a big canvas, you know, and you can chop into them. We've got our little sort of spring fairies, we've got our beautiful backgrounds, birds this time as well. Well, I think often there are birds, a bit more like houses. Oh, I love the little bird house. That's beautiful. Lots of butterflies. I'm loving all the butterflies, as you may have seen. If you've seen any of my other videos, I am a bit of a butterfly fiend. I do love a butterfly. That's the little girl from the cover, isn't it? There she is, with her holding her pet bee. And then, oh, that's a lovely one. So this book gives me a little bit more watercolory vibes, a bit more vintagey vibes in places. That's certainly, I can imagine that in a frame, you know, like an old master type painting. But then we've got these, I love these flowers. These may be making an appearance in my project today, I'm not sure. I'm thinking, oh, That one is so cute. That may be, I am thinking that might be for this today's project as well. I'm not sure. But I love little individual flowers. These are really handy to me. That is certainly something I would use a lot. Beautiful backgrounds. Oh, so cute. Then she's got an ice cream. But lovely. Again, if you didn't want to use this as a background, I mean, you could take that part, you could use those flowers separately. You know, you don't have to take it as it is. I often don't really use the backgrounds, I have to admit. So for me, it would be a case of like, I might take those rocks, I might take those flowers, I might take, you know, a bit of the cloud. I wouldn't necessarily use it as a whole. But, you know, that's the ideal thing about these books, is cut them up and use them how you want to use them. Oh, gorgeous little sort of fairies sitting. Again, that very vintage sort of watercolour look. Another gorgeous little character there. So I love this one's got a real mixture. Oh, I love tulips. Tulips are lovely. Daffodils everywhere at the moment. So I'm thinking that my page today may be very much in the yellow vibe. Beautiful houses again. A whole page of clouds. So brilliant. If you know, plain backgrounds are so useful. And as I always say, if there's a page you really, you know, it's a background you think I wouldn't use it, but you love this side, use this side. That's what I would be doing. I just love the backgrounds on here. Again, more little fairies, beautiful, and in circles as well. So you've got different shapes to cut out there. I love all the pebbles. I love the pebbles. And a whole page of butterflies. Beautiful. I've done a couple of butterfly pages recently, so I won't use butterflies today, but they are, you know, you can see that that will be going on something very soon. Beautiful, dreamy backgrounds. More beautiful flowers. You cannot have too many flowers because they make such brilliant elements around your main focal point. Gorgeous again. I love a lovely background. Some little fairies with their blue outfits. So, you know, it's not just yellow. And yellow is to me very much a spring colour, but, you know, blues and pinks as well. And again, all of these, these may be the ones I use today, actually. I'm liking these. I'm perhaps thinking, I don't often use little birds out of these books. I do use birds out of other things, but I'm usually more of a quirky, cool kind of bird, not a realistic bird kind of person. But this is fantastic. I love all of them. So many, really useful, beautiful. If you were making spring cards for people, you know, you've got 3 little, you know, 4x4, 3x3 cards straight away there. Again, going into a different colour. Again, the birds, flowers, the little fairies. And then wouldn't be complete, would it, for spring without our little fluffy creatures, because they are appearing all over the place. And then another one of my favourite things is to have words. And now we haven't just got individual words, we've got sentiments. So one of these will definitely be on my page today, but not wasting any space. Still that beautiful flower there. Oh, and we're not finished. Ladybirds. Or ladybugs if you're not in the UK. So beautiful. And then a bonus page for Easter. So if you're wanting to make Easter projects, Easter cards, you know, ideal. And then I love loving that background. And then a bonus page. And do you know what? I tend to flick things backwards. I don't know if anybody else does that. If I get a magazine, I flick from the back. I don't know why. I just do. And so straight away I saw these light bulbs and I'm like, little personas. Here we come. And I'm loving her. She's got like a little bit of a little persona vibe going on, but in a bit more of a flouncy way, I'd say. Not quite so industrial. So you always get a bonus page at the back just to give you an idea of what you might find in some of the other books. Then we've got our information about Marta's YouTube, about her Facebook group, all the socials. And there we go. You have a couple of pages back. And there we go. And again, always the back is beautiful. And there's you can scan again there. So that's the spring stories. So far in my ledger, let's have a look. I have done this page. It seems to be all Marta's books go. And I have done this spread. I think both of these have videos. So what I will do is at the end of this video, the link I'll put the little end card will link this video, I think, to that, because it's in the same book and it's also with Marta. But I'm going to be doing this double page spread today in the Dina Wakley Ledger Journal, because I think this has got a lovely plane, so we can have some lovely images going on here, maybe a bit more of the background showing on this side, but I'm thinking yellows and maybe a little bit of orange, a bit of those sort of really spring colours. So that is what I'm going to do next. That will be time lapsed, so that will be sped up a little bit, and I will do a voiceover. So thank you very much for watching so far. I hope you stick around and see what I make with these, and I will see you in a moment. So I'm starting off by adding some tape down the middle of my pages. I like to do that in this book just because I want to protect the pages underneath. This paper in the Ledger Journal isn't quite as thick as the paper in the Delusions Journal, which is mixed media. It's still pretty good, and I have not had any problems with anything bleeding through. And although it buckles a little bit when you first use it, it does straighten out quite a lot. I just like to protect the other pages a little bit. So I'm using a bit of washi tape, a bit of masking tape. Then I thought while I was there, I'll just add a little bit more masking tape on for a little bit of extra texture. It was been a bit funny across the middle when I was trying to make sure it stuck down. I'm using the Decoart matte medium for this part. The reason being is that I'm trying to finish off the tub. That is literally the reason. I find most matte mediums work in more or less the same way. I like this one. I like the Distress one from Tim Holtz, and I also like the Liquitex professional one. But I just wanted to try and get as much of this pot used as possible, and I'm right near the end, so it was a good opportunity. So I'm applying the matte medium, that's the word, to the page, to the tape, and then over the top. And then I am going to add some stenciling. So I wanted to add even more texture. So I'm using the Finnabair Dandelions stencil and Pretty Gets Gritty's white texture paste. It's a nice texture paste. It's not too thick. It's quite quick drying, but I mean, you do need to make sure it's thoroughly dry before you start adding other things on top. I wanted to keep the right hand side of my spread for my main images, and then the left hand side for sort of a small of an image. So I put the texture at the top of the right side and the bottom of the left side, so that it would go with how I had in my head the focal images working. Once that had dried, I wanted to add some colour. I thought about using pigment powders, and I thought, no, I'm going to use watercolour. So I'm using the Core Watercolours by Golden. This palette has got a mixture of different paints, but the ones I used in this project are all the Core. So I'm starting off with the lighter, brighter, sort of lemony yellow, which is actually Hansa Yellow Light, I do believe. And I added quite a lot of water to this part of the project, but it still didn't go through to the other side, which I will show you in a little while. Then I wanted a bit more of a darker, richer sort of yellow, so I'm using the Quinacridone Gold and just adding it into sections. And what I love is when you add watery products over the top of texture paste, and it runs in the gaps, and it flows really nicely. And the Core paints also do have aquazole in them, which means that they flow even more. So when they hit each other, they really whiz around, which is really lovely. I also added in a bit of green because I wanted not to be just one solid colour. So I was going to use the green gold, and then I found that was a bit similar to the yellow, so I added in a bit of sap green instead. So the three main colours I use are the Hansa Yellow Light, Quinacridone Gold and sap green. Now I did use my kitchen towel to mop up a bit of the liquid, but you can see how it hadn't come through. Any paint that did go onto the other side actually was where it had leaked across the page because I put too much on. I decided I wanted a little bit of gold. Don't know why, just had an urge. I thought I could have left it at just the colour, but I decided a little bit of gold. So I started with the Winsor & Newton gold ink and I did some splatters, and then I thought, no, I want a little bit more of a hit of gold in here. So I added some to the top and really watered it out to try and get it to run. Because it is gold ink, it's got a lot of I presume it's mica or something like that. It takes a lot of stirring up to get it to recombine with the liquid that's in the ink, and so it's took quite a lot of water to get it to move around, and it did sort of clump up quite a lot. But I liked the effect. I just put it in the one area and sort of let that go down, and then on the other side and let it go up. I didn't want too much, just sort of like one sort of streak of it really. Now I am choosing my elements. I already had in my head what I was going to choose. So if you did skip through, I apologise. Obviously, I am going to use the book, so you will still see some of the elements that are in there. But hopefully, I flick quite quickly through the other pages so I don't spoil it if you were wanting a surprise. So I pick out my main focal point, which is going to be this fairy. But I did want to include quite a lot of flowers, and this is what I loved about this page here in particular. There are lots of individual flowers, all different sizes, so I chose a number of them. I didn't know whether I was going to use everything I cut out or just a selection, but I also went for a little birdie, and then I thought I need some more different sort of shaped flowers. So I went for this one because I wanted to pick a little bit of the pink that's in the main image out for the opposite page. I really almost did take a butterfly, changed my mind, and then went for a few more flowers. But again, just a slightly different look to these flowers. I wanted something that had more leaves, because sometimes if you just have flowers and there's no foliage with them, they can look a bit odd. And finally, I did want some bees. So I cut out 3. I didn't use 3, spoiler alert, but I cut them out because I wasn't sure what I wanted to use. So I'm only going to show you cutting one element out because there was a lot of elements. It took me a bit of time to cut them all out, and I am cutting them right up to the line. I wanted them to not have a border, and I'm turning my paper as I go. I find that is the easiest way. So keeping your scissors more or less in one place and turning your paper. So here they are cut out, and isn't that very gorgeous? And I just wanted the fairy to be the main focal point on that side of the page. So I'm using the rest of my Decoart matte medium, but you will see in a little while I will have to quickly rush off to go and get the Liquitex, because this one I do actually get through the whole pot. There wasn't a lot left in it, I have to admit. So I wanted to balance out the 2 points. I wanted the fairy down in the bottom right, and then I wanted to have a focal point on the left. I didn't want as much on the left at all. I only wanted a small amount of imagery over there, but I did want something, so I balanced it across. So it's like making a diagonal across from the fairy. And even though it looks a bit like it's floating in midair at the moment, I did already know that I was going to use my sentiment for that to sort that bit out. So I wasn't worried about it being there. So once I'd stuck the 2 main points on, I added the other little bits like the bee, the leaves, leaves, and then the flowers to go around the bottom of the fairy. So I wanted the fairy to be stood basically in lots of springtime yellow flowers, and that's what I did. So if I started sticking them down and then realised that I needed something to go behind, using the matte medium, and while it's still wet, you can sort of lift and put things behind, so it's not too much of a problem. So I started on the right with the bigger flowers, and then I thought I'm going to go over to the left of that page just to add the bigger flowers there, because I wanted it to be balanced out with the bigger ones on the outside going to the smaller ones in the middle, with a little bit of height from that other flower as well. So I wanted those flowers to be a bit varied across the bottom of that page. I made sure that all of this was dry, and then I've got out my Derwent Inktense pencils. Now usually I use the colour bark to add a bit of shadow, but because there's a real yellowy orangey sort of look to lots of this spread, I went for Willow today, which is a slightly more orangey brown. Now I started off adding this colour around. I wasn't entirely happy, so I do swap in a moment to try and add a little bit of the black Stabillo all pencil in as well. I will do part of this on screen and then I go off to finish the rest, because it was taking me a lot longer and I really needed to get in with some detail, and I couldn't do that so much when I was worrying about getting my head in the shot. So I start by adding the darkest of the colour right by the image and then water it out to get a sort of a nice blended look. But I did want to add a little bit more darkness beside the image, and I was finding that a little bit tricky with just the brown, which is why now you see me swap to the black. I did think of swapping to the bark, but then I thought, well, the black mingled in with the willow would make a darker brown rather than a real black colour. Sometimes I think at this point it's quite handy to walk away a little bit sometimes and come back, because when you are in the midst of adding all this shadow, you can get a little bit blind almost to how it's actually looking. And certainly once I sort of stepped away a little bit from it, I thought actually it's looking a lot better than I thought it was whilst I was doing it. Now once I'd done that, I thought about, did I want to add some highlights? In the end I thought no, I quite liked the more muted vintage look to the images, but I did want a sentiment, so I chose one from the book. Normally I would stick these directly on and maybe draw a border around them, but I actually went for cutting them up, and in a moment I add a bit of cardboard behind them to make them a little bit more of a focal point really, which I then will just add to the page with some Cosmic Shimmer glue. So thank you ever so much for watching this video today. If you have enjoyed it, do please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed, it would be fabulous if you could hit that subscribe icon. And until the next time, bye bye.